let's get to the news. Ginni Thomas was spoke with the committee, and you could not have a more clear-cut case of crocodile tears. They talked about it on CNN. Let's see what corporate media had to say.
Tonight, regrets she has a few. Just released transcripts.
Okay, just real quick. I'm sorry, I'm gross, but hey, girl. All right, moving on.
From the January 6th Select Committee revealing Ginni Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, said she would take back the text she sent to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows about trying to overturn the election, saying in part,
I'm
quote,
sure she would.
I regret the tone and context of these texts. Congressman Schiff then asking, quote, and what in particular disturbs you in hindsight about the content of the text? To which she replied, well, you know, I would take them all back if I could today. So I'm not comfortable with any of them being, I wish I could have rewritten them. I wish I didn't send them. Paula Reed is out front. Ginni Thomas says she regrets the tone and content of her text, but she still believes Trump's go-to lie, that the 2020 election was stolen.
That's exactly right. Her remorse only goes so far. And when investigators on
This is a development in corporate media. I keep bringing up a lot of these clips because this is good to see. This is the stuff your parents watch, generally speaking. And throughout their whole lives, they've basically been told everything's fine, and when a powerful person says something, it's true. And hearing them, even though this is like a little baby version of it, hearing them actually start to say, like, yeah, but she didn't change anything of value is excellent.
committee really pressed her about the content of those text messages, which was amplifying and pressing Meadows on these false claims of voter fraud. Thomas doubled down. She was pressed specifically by the committee vice chairwoman, Representative Liz Cheney, who asked her, and so you are aware that the president and his allies brought legal challenges, which was completely their right to do, but that they lost 61 out of 62 of those legal challenges? Thomas responds, I still believed there was fraud and irregularity, as millions of Americans do, Representative Cheney. Now, she also admits, Sarah, that she has no evidence of.
Also important, when they say they lost 61 out of 62 cases, it's not like that 60-second case was them saying, "Oh yeah, look at that, it was Democrat voter fraud." No, it was a minor procedural matter that the court didn't want to set a precedent on. That's it. So there was no case to be made in court, which is why they lost in court time and time again.
And this was as recently as just a few months ago, but she says there still could be evidence to be unearthed, insisting, I just think there's still a lot of things that are still being uncovered. And so I believe there was fraud and irregularity, contrary to what you believe.
Look at how right-wingers always discuss January 6th. I just feel like, no facts, I just feel like there's a lot of things that are still being uncovered. Where? What was uncovered recently? Ginni Thomas. Nothing. Here's the issue, though. She doesn't think that. There's no reason she has to think that. There's no reason any of them have to think that any of this, any of the wild accusations they're making about voter fraud are true. They don't think it. It's just the excuse they're using to attempt a coup. That's all.
Sarah, there's also a lot of questions that are raised by these exchanges that she had with the former White House Chief of Staff about the fact that the wife of a Supreme Court justice was pressing a top White House official to try to undermine democracy.
Yeah.
It was surprising in the transcript that she was not asked many questions about her husband, but as a spouse, she does have some confidentiality protections. But she did disclose that when she referred in her exchange with Meadows to talking about all this with her best friend, that she was likely referring to her husband, though she insists her husband didn't know she was texting with Meadows until he read about it in the press.
Seems like there's more questions to answer there. Thank you so much, Paula Reed.
Out
front now, John Dean, former Nixon White House counsel. John, thank you so much for being here. I always enjoy talking to you. Let's start with Ginni Thomas. She says she regrets, as you heard.
Do remember John Dean is the parallels between him and the people that were interviewed and part of the January 6th testimony are many. He himself was on the side of the bad guys until it was clear that that side was going down, and then he was, as they said, White House counsel for Nixon. And when it was apparent that crimes were committed, he gave testimony.
Heard sending Mark Meadows those texts, but on multiple occasions she defends. She still defends her beliefs that she believes that the 2020 election was stolen, which it wasn't. Can she have it both ways here?
Well, when I went through her transcript, I had the impression that she was very evasive. She wasn't remorseful in general about the fact that she'd made these comments and sent these texts out. She was regretful that they'd been released and became public, and she accused the committee of leaking them basically just to embarrass her, which was not the case. But I think she really was uncomfortable throughout her testimony. Her attorney testified a lot for her, which I've never seen a chair let happen as often as it did in this deposition. So it's an odd collection in this deposition.
I say it time and yes, I do that a lot too. I say it time and time again. Get a snake to go after a snake. Republicans are good at this. They know how to stick and twist. It's accurate. Yeah, she's not remorseful. She doesn't give a damn. She also was allowed way too much leeway. Always remember that a normal American, a person of an average amount of power, would not be allowed to behave in this way. If regular Americans had done the organizing for J6, they would all be in prison right now. How do we know this? Because regular Americans who participated in J6 are in prison right now. If I'm actually, I'm going to do a whole video about what I'm grateful to Donald Trump for. I am grateful that he is so bad at crime, here's the headline, that it has forced America to deal with its corruption problem. My worst nightmare will be if we get out the other side of this and America has learned nothing, and America sees the next tyrant playing the old school game and being subtle about it and hasn't learned any lessons. I guarantee you corporate media will go scurrying back to their comfortable space. Maybe not Chris Hayes. We got him coming up in a little bit. He's an all right newsman. But I hope that's not the case.
Paula just mentioned this, that Ginni Thomas also testified that the best friend she referenced in the text exchange with Mark Meadows was indeed her husband, Clarence Thomas, who, of course, is a Supreme Court justice.
Ruled
what did
on a
they
case
discuss?
involving
Thomas
her.
says, quote, "I wish I could remember, but I have no memory of the specifics. My husband often administers spousal support to the wife that's upset. So I assume that's what it was. No specific memory here. Seems to remember some things, not others.
That's convenient.
You know, I have a question for you. If she is discussing any of this with the Supreme Court justice, you know, what are your big concerns?
Well, she claimed at the outset of her testimony in a brief little statement there was an ironclad rule in their house that they never talked about each other's business, that she was on a political lane or in a political lane, her husband was in the legal lane, and those lanes didn't cross. It was pretty hard to believe as the testimony unrolled and what we know about their relationship, that that's possible. But, you know, anything's possible, I suppose. What I took away from it was that they often talk about these things, and they're sounding boards for each other, which is kind of natural in a marriage.
You know, I know you believe that Mark Meadows is target number 2 after, of course, then President Donald Trump. Donald Trump
well he
is
should be.
right now the only
That is
Republican
the
running
path
for
to
the
prosecution for
presidency.
Trump.
Is any of this new revelations from these transcripts enough to loosen Donald Trump's grip on the Republican Party, you think?
I doubt it. Not at his base. His base is going to stay where they are. They don't care about the facts. They often ignore them. They certainly don't read 800-page reports about their president that are highly critical of what he did and examine it in some detail. So I think he's still got a very good shot at winning the nomination.
That is some of the first sober analysis I've seen of the Donald Trump January 6th situation. Yeah, the base doesn't care about facts, plain and simple. The MAGA heads are not interested in reality. They never have been. So to think they will ever be swayed by an argument you can make, by an argument that is based in reality, is silliness, and it's a waste of time to pursue tactics like that. Just don't bother. Don't bother. In fact, in the political process, that, in my opinion, they have to be ignored entirely, and I'll show you a bit about why later. Ignored as in not played to. Don't try to please them. What they want is bad. So you compromise with evil, you get a half-evil plan.
The powers that be in the Republican Party are not going to be very happy with that. But again, they have a base that is very pro-Trump. So we'll have to see how this story is going to continue to unfold over the coming months.
You were there when Nixon went through all that he went through, and it certainly was not the same, was it?
No, this is Watergate on steroids. It really is, and it is unrelenting. We're getting information from multiple fire hoses that we have to dip into each day and try to get a grasp of what it is. Hopefully there'll be a gap there where we can take it all in.
Okay, so, and I think I've talked about this a couple of times before. That's not an accident. That information is coming out every day. What the J6 committee could have done, and what would have been a mistake, is to put all of their information in one giant file, put it on Dropbox, and give the major news networks access to it and say, have at. Why would that have been an issue? Because it would have left the mind of Americans. It would be something that they... It would be something that they were fascinated with for a couple of days, and then were utterly amnesiac about. They just completely forgot about. Look at this right here. Every one of those people committed crimes while in office. Donald Trump committed a lot, and he did it blatantly. But all of them committed crimes worthy of prison. Richard Nixon sabotaged Vietnam peace talks before he got into office. Then Watergate, which he was pardoned for by the moron that followed him, Gerald Ford. Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush were part of the Iran-Contra affair, illegal arms deal, that funded a war against a socialist government. George W. Bush lied about the Iraq War, and my God, we are constantly learning about Donald Trump's crimes. So, just don't think that the public being aware of the fact that Trump committed crimes is enough to get him punished. It's not. The playbook used to let all those guys get off the hook was time plus corruption. Prosecutors, which have no interest in going after the powerful in America, let time pass. They wait for you to get bored. They wait for you to forget about the details or to get fascinated with the next thing. And then, only then, do they announce that they are letting the corrupt guy go. That way, it doesn't feel as corrupt as it is. Merrick Garland's trying to do that now. We are going into year 3 without prosecution, without charges being filed after Donald Trump tried a coup. Clarence Thomas ruled on a case that involved Ginni Thomas, and he tried to prevent her texts from being released. Straight up corruption. Unfortunately, there's nothing illegal about that, but the inaction about it has exposed why we need to change rules for the Supreme Court. But if I'm going to put a cap on this particular segment, it is to say that corporate media is learning, and good on them. So CNN, a rare W for you.